AITA for showing up at my ex-husband's wedding to try and win him back, even though he left me 3 years ago after I cheated on him. My husband left me 3 years ago without a word when he found out I had cheated on him. I never got any closure, and today I found out he's already remarried and has a baby on the way. I'm 35 now, and I'm fully aware of the mistakes I've made. I know I ruined everything. He's 36, and we had something beautiful together. Even after all this time, he's still the love of my life. We were together for 10 years, 2 years dating, and 8 years married. I made a huge mistake and cheated on him. It was only once, just one terrible, regrettable mistake. I never even had the chance to explain or apologize because somehow, he found out, and from that moment, he vanished from my life. I assume he found something on my phone, but I've never been sure. I came home that afternoon, just like any other day, but something felt off. The house seemed emptier, quieter, and then it hit me, his things were gone. Panic took over. I started calling him repeatedly, but his phone didn't even ring. That's when I saw the papers on the table, divorce papers. On top of them, there was a note. It said, "This is what you do to traitors." Those were the last words I ever received from him in the last 3 years. I tried contacting his lawyer, our only means of communication, but the lawyer was cold, saying that my ex-husband didn't want to see me. I was devastated. Angry, heartbroken, confused. How could 10 years just vanish like that? How could he leave me without a word? I know I messed up, but all I wanted was a chance to make things right. If he just gave me one more chance, I'm sure I could make him fall in love with me again. Couples go through these kinds of things and come out stronger, right? Why couldn't we? But instead, I was discarded like trash after one mistake. It's like all those years meant nothing to him. Was I really worth that little? The silence from him was more painful than anything else. Not hearing his voice for 2 years, not being able to see or talk to the person I loved most, was a punishment too great to bear. The weight of it crushed me emotionally, mentally, and physically. I started drinking way too much, barely eating or sleeping. I was like a zombie, moving through life on autopilot, just surviving. I wanted to die, but something kept me alive, the faint hope that maybe, one day, he would come back. My therapist says it's hard to move on when you don't have closure because your mind holds on to the idea that the relationship isn't really over. It keeps waiting for that person to walk back through the door, to wake up from the nightmare and find them beside you. But that never happened. Our divorce was finalized over a year ago, and I'll be honest, I didn't make it easy. I fought it every step of the way. I didn't want to let go, and to this day, I still don't fully understand how we even got divorced. I asked for couples therapy, but he refused. I found out later from my lawyer that his lawyer suggested he at least try it, but he wouldn't. Eventually, after dragging it out for what felt like an eternity, the divorce happened. I can't even describe how it felt. It was like a part of me was ripped away, and that pain still lingers. I hurt him, I failed him, but deep down, I believe everyone deserves a second chance. Don't they? After I couldn't take the pain anymore, I decided to start therapy. My therapist didn't give me advice on how to get him back, she just focused on helping me move forward with my life. She encouraged me to meet new people, to date again, but I didn't want that. At this point, I wasn't even interested in the physical aspect of love anymore. Then something happened that completely broke me. I was having drinks with my friend Nick one night, we were pretty drunk, and I started talking about my ex. She told me that I needed to move on. That he had already moved on and was happy without me, and I should be doing the same. I couldn't believe how confidently she said it. How did she know that? The way she spoke made it sound like she knew something, and that planted a seed of doubt and jealousy deep inside me. I pressed her for more information, begging her to tell me if she knew something about him. I was desperate to know if there was someone else. After a lot of back and forth, Nick finally admitted that her husband had been in contact with my ex for the past year. They used to be good friends, and apparently, my ex was doing fine, even happy. Something in me shattered at that moment. It wasn't just the emptiness I felt before. This was a burning obsession. I couldn't believe he had moved on. How could he just forget me? We had built a life together, 10 years of memories, dreams, and plans. Yes, I made a mistake, but didn't he see that we were still connected, that we were still one? He was my everything, and I wasn't going to give him up without a fight. That night was a turning point. I couldn't sleep. Everything Nick had told me gnawed at me from the inside. The thought of him being happy with another woman, starting a new life with her, was unbearable. The jealousy, the rage, the obsession, it all mixed together, and I could barely think straight. The next week, I started looking for any clues I could find about him. I staked out his old apartment, went to the neighborhood where I knew he lived now, and spent hours watching the houses, trying to figure out which one was his. I made notes, trying to piece together his routine, where he went, who he talked to. All I wanted was one chance to see him, to make him listen to me. Nick began distancing herself from me. Her messages became less frequent, and when we did meet, she always found an excuse to leave early. I knew she could see how consumed I was, but I didn't care. All that mattered was him. Then, one day, after weeks of watching, I saw him. He was leaving a cafe with her, the other woman. The intruder. She was pregnant, glowing in a way I hadn't in years. My heart pounded so hard I thought I would pass out. It was a painful sight, but it also fueled something dark inside me. She couldn't have him. I had to stop this. I followed them to their car, keeping a safe distance. My impulse was to keep following them, to figure out everything about this woman, who she was, how she had managed to take what I had lost. I wanted to ruin their relationship. I wanted her to feel the same pain I was feeling. I wanted her to know that he was mine and always would be. The next day, I started investigating her life. I found her name on social media and dug through everything, where she worked, who she spent time with, where she liked to go. Every piece of information I found gave me more control, more power over her. I started small, anonymously calling her workplace, spreading rumors, just enough to plant some seeds of doubt. Then, I took a more direct approach. I sent her messages from unknown numbers, hinting that she didn't really know who the man by her side was. I took satisfaction in the chaos I was creating, but it wasn't enough. I needed more. I began going to the same places she did, watching from a distance while she shopped or had coffee with her friends. Each moment was torture, but it also fueled my hatred and obsession. And then, I made my fatal mistake. One day, in a fit of jealousy and desperation, I decided to confront her directly. I drove to their house and parked on the corner, waiting for her to leave for her morning walk, something I had learned was part of her daily routine. When I saw her coming down the street, I approached her, trying to appear casual, but my heart was racing. "You know who I am," I said, my voice dripping with disdain. She looked confused and scared, but didn't say anything. "I'm his ex-wife. The real love of his life. Everything you think you have with him is nothing compared to what we had." She took a step back, clearly unnerved, but I didn't stop. I stared at her pregnant belly with disgust. What should have been mine was now hers. "You'll never be what I was to him. You'll never be able to replace what we had." She finally opened her mouth to say something, but before she could, I continued. "You're just a placeholder. He's with you because I made a mistake, but he still loves me. He'll never love you the way he loved me. He's mine. You think this baby will keep him? You don't know him like I do." She started crying, and in that moment, I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction. I had hurt her. But then something terrible happened. I didn't know he was watching. He had been standing at the door, watching the whole scene unfold. "Go away," he said, his voice low and firm. "I never want to see you near my wife, my home, or my family again." I froze. "But we still," I began to stammer, desperation rising in my throat. But he cut me off. "It's over. It's been over for a long time. You need to move on, just like I have. With that, he turned away from me, wrapping his arms around her and guiding her back into their house, leaving me standing there, completely and utterly alone. That was the moment I realized I had lost him forever. Not just physically, but emotionally. All my efforts to hold on to him, to punish him, to get him back, had only pushed him further away. And now, standing there in front of the house he shared with his new family, I knew that I had been holding on to a ghost all along. It was time to let go, no matter how much it hurt. Enjoyed the story? Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss new content. Share your thoughts and ideas in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think and what you'd like to see next. And if you want to keep watching more videos like this one, just click on the next video. See you there.